Welcome to the Explainer. Sometimes the most ancient texts hide the most modern puzzles. And today we're diving into a really fascinating one from the book of Deuteronomy, one that's going to make us rethink everything we know about choice, sight, and what it really means to listen.
So right at the start of this section, we get this really direct command. It says, "See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse." It's a powerful image, right? A choice laid out right there in front of you, something you can literally see. But almost immediately, the text throws us a curveball, because in the very next breath, it says the blessing comes when you hear the commandments. Wait a minute, what? Are we supposed to see it, or are we supposed to hear it? This little contradiction, this little puzzle, is actually the key to unlocking the entire deeper message here. So let's start with section 1, the paradox of seeing. Well, the way to solve this, according to the source material, is to completely rethink what seeing even means here. This isn't about seeing with your eyeballs. The text is talking about seeing with the heart, a kind of spiritual insight, a deep understanding that you can only get through true attentive listening. Think of it like this. You've got two completely different ways of perceiving the world. There's physical sight, which is all external. It's from the eye, and it can be pretty superficial. But then there's this inner vision. It's internal, it's spiritual, and it comes from the heart. It's the difference between just looking at the surface and really, truly getting it. And, this idea of looking past the surface, it's not a new concept. This line from the book of Samuel hammers it home. Divine perception doesn't care about outward appearances. It sees right into our inner state, into our heart. And the text is basically inviting us to learn how to do the same for ourselves.
Okay, that brings us to our second section, hearing as inner vision.
So, if we're supposed to develop this seeing with the heart, how do we actually do that? It sounds a bit abstract, right? Well, the text gives us some really practical examples, and it all starts with two pillars of listening: where you worship and what you eat. Sounds simple, but they're huge lessons in putting a higher principle above your own personal preferences. First up, worship. The text says it can only happen in the place that God will choose. And here's the key thing. You don't get to pick the spot just because it's convenient or has a nice view. This is a top-down instruction, and it's designed to teach you to listen to a higher authority instead of just your own impulses. All right, now for that second pillar. This one gets into a really specific dietary rule. You can't eat blood. And the text explains why with this incredible statement, the blood is the life. Or in the original Hebrew, the nephesh. So you might think, okay, no blood, got it. What's the big deal? But according to the source, this goes way deeper than just a dietary rule. At the time, consuming blood was tied to this idea of absorbing an animal's life force, a kind of primal mysticism. The Torah says, nope, that life force, that nephesh, belongs to God. Your job is to honor that boundary and focus your devotion on holy, practical actions instead. All right, section 3, God's place, God's rules. Okay, so the challenges are about to level up big time. It's one thing to follow the rules when everything's easy, right? But what happens when you're tempted to turn away? And what if the people tempting you are false prophets or even your own close family? This is the ultimate test. Can you hold on to what you've heard when the people you love and trust most are pulling you in the other direction? And the text is incredibly blunt about why this happens. It's not random. It is, quote, a test. It's a test to find out if your love, your commitment is the real deal, if it's truly coming from your heart and soul, or if it's just something you do when it's convenient. You can almost picture it like this. Simple obedience. Yeah, that's important. That's the baseline. But loyalty when you're under pressure, that's on a whole other level. That's the true measure of devotion. It's easy to follow a path with no obstacles. True commitment is what you do when you're being pushed off that path. Moving on to section 4. A test of true loyalty. So this idea of loyalty scales up from just you as an individual to the entire community. And the text gives this really intense example. The law of the subverted city, a town that completely falls into idolatry. But here's the fascinating part. The commentary suggests this probably never ever happened. So why is it even in there? Well, it's a symbol, a powerful, unforgettable warning about what's at stake if you let corruption take root. So, protecting the community really means two things. On one hand, you've got to play defense, guarding against those negative influences. But it's also about playing offense. You have to actively support the community's spiritual heart, like the Levites, who were its teachers. It's a shared responsibility, a group project in listening. And that leads us to our final section, number 5, protecting the sacred community. So we've talked about where to worship, what to eat, and how to stay loyal. And when you step back and look at all of it, you realize all these different laws are really pointing to one single fundamental choice. Are you going to listen to that internal divine compass, or are you going to be guided by your own ego and whatever is trendy on the outside? And this is what that choice looks like, laid out plain and simple. On one side, you have the blessing. It comes from hearing, from internal commitment, from a listening heart. On the other side, the curse, and that comes from relying only on what you see with your eyes, on external influences, personal preference, and ego. This is the choice the text wanted us to see from the very beginning. And honestly, this brings us to what might be the most powerful idea in this whole explainer. It completely flips our modern idea of freedom on its head. We tend to think freedom is about having unlimited options, doing whatever you want. But this text suggests true freedom is something else entirely. It's the strength to choose commitment, to choose a life guided by disciplined internal listening. So that leaves us with a pretty big question, especially for today. In our world, which is just overflowing with visual noise, notifications, ads, endless feeds, what does it actually mean to shut all of that out and just truly listen?